In this video, I'll be sharing with you a simple tutorial / illustration on how to cut this stylish dress with pleats. So to start, I'm going to be drafting this in a miniature size, that is in a smaller illustration. And for this dress, what you need is to cut your pattern on fold, and you're going to mark your shoulder to bust, your shoulder to under bust. So I'm using all these measurements as my measurement, but this is not an actual body size measurement, right? So you need your shoulder to bust, under bust, waist, and then 7 inches to get your hip point. So I'm just going to mark this as the bust line, as the under bust line, as the waist line, and now as the hip line. Remember, your hip is 7 to 8 inches after your waistline. This totally depends on your height, how tall the person is. So after I'm done marking this out or labeling it, next you're going to mark your shoulder divided by 2. And after marking that, you come down by 1 inch for your shoulder slope or slant, and I'll go ahead to place my ruler to connect. Next, I'm going to find my chest line, which is my bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. Now I'll place my ruler to draw a straight line there. Now after marking this, what I'll do is to go ahead to mark what I have on the shoulder, which is your shoulder divided by 2. Now, place your ruler and go ahead to draw out a straight line connecting to your shoulder. After you're done connecting that, go ahead to divide what you have at your shoulder into 2. Mark ½ inch, and on the chest line, go ahead to mark your bust circumference divided by 4. Now connect from this point to the upper part of your shoulder and connect this all the way to the chest line of your pattern. After you're done marking this, we're going to start by marking out our darts. We're going to use a basic dart, so you need to mark your nipple to nipple divided by 2. From the waistline, I'll come down by 4 inches. Now, what I'll do is I'll place my ruler and I'm going to go ahead to draw a straight line connecting from the bust, under bust, and waistline. Now, for the dart, I'll be marking ½ inch on both sides of the waistline, come down by 1 inch from the bust. Remember, this is a basic dart. Now, I'm just going to go ahead to extend this all the way to the upper part of this pattern. And after I'm done extending that, I'll also go ahead to extend the other side of my waist dart to the upper part. Now, take this dart all the way to that extra 4 inches you came down by. You can come down by 4 to 5 inches. So after I'm done marking this, I'm going to mark my bust circumference divided by 4 and add my sewing allowance because my dart did not cut across that point. Here, I'll mark my under bust circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace, and I'll add a sewing allowance. Here, I'll mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace, and add a sewing allowance. Here, I'm going to mark my hip circumference divided by 4 and add your sewing allowance. Use any sewing allowance of your choice. Now, whatever I have here, I'll just take it down and minus 1 inch from it, extend it all the way down to the lower part. So that part also, we are going to go ahead to cut it out so that we can create the asymmetric style we have on this dress, right? Now, from the waist, I'll connect to the under bust, and from the under bust, I'll connect all the way down to the hip area. Now, after connecting that, I'm going to go ahead to connect this all the way to the lower part of this pattern. Now, after I'm done connecting this, what I'll do is to go ahead to cut this out. So what I'll now do is to go ahead to cut out this part of my pattern. After cutting this, what I'll do is to go ahead to use this pattern to cut out the back part. So after cutting this out, the next step I'll take is to come in here. So from the shoulder, you can come in by 2.5 to 3 inches, and from your chest line, come up by 1.5 or 2 inches depending on what you want. So I'll draw a straight line there, then connect this all the way down. Make like a little curve and draw out the slight sweetheart neckline we have here. So remember, all this measurement and drafting on the pattern paper is not the actual measurement. The actual measurement is the one that I'm mentioning. Now I'll just go ahead to cut this out and blend this out. So now on this dress, on the shoulder, you might have a little gaping and you might need to also do some tightening on that part. So I'll also be explaining that later. So for you to tighten it, you can go in at any point here and then add like 0.25 inches that here and blend out that part this way. Like blend it out and leave the armhole area open. Now if you don't want to use this method, all you have to do is to go down by half inch at the shoulder. At the shoulder, you can come in by half inch and slant it straight to your shoulder line, right? That way it will help tighten the front part of the shoulder of the dress. Now let's go ahead to work on this side. From the waistline, you can come down by 4 to 5 inches, and from here you can come down by 7 to 8 inches, because if you look at it at the side of this pattern, is stopped like at the hip or slightly below the hip, and this part is slightly above, the other side is slightly above the hip pattern. Now what you do is to measure from here now to this other end of your dress. So that is what you use to cut out this part of your dress that has a pleat. So I'll just go ahead to cut this out. And after cutting out, just like I said, I'll be using this pattern to cut out the back. So now this is the pattern paper I folded for the back, and I added like a zipper allowance. So for your zipper allowance, you can use 1.5 to 2 inches. Now what I'll do is to quickly go ahead to trace out what I have here. And after tracing it, we can now go ahead to cut out this pattern. By tracing out the back, you can decide how your back will be, whether it's low or high. So I just went ahead to use the chest line, connected it also. Now after marking this, right, I'll just take this straight. Now the next step you're going to take is to go ahead to cut this out. Then after cutting this out, we can now go ahead to proceed with the rest of the cutting of this pattern. You can also tighten the shoulder. So mark your waistline here, because you're going to be getting rid of the bulginess at the back of your dress. Mark half inch, come in half inch at the waistline, extend it up and also take it all the way down. So after this, go ahead to chop out that area of your dress. Another thing is that you can go ahead to replace that measurement by the side if you have not cut out your pattern. This is to replace whatever measurement you have. So now I will fold the zipper. So what I'm trying to do is to cut out the back to have the same asymmetric hemline we have here. Now after folding out your zipper, place and you're going to trace out what you have here so that the back and the front is going to match, right? Now what you now do is to go ahead to cut this out. After you're done cutting out here, you're done with whatever you have with the upper part. So now, just to avoid being confused also, the back has a dart, right? Remember we traced out our pattern with the front. I'll go ahead to mark my nipple to nipple line. That is my nipple to nipple divided by 2. So what I'll do is that dart that I marked for the front part, that same process, I'm going to mark my nipple to nipple starting from the zipper line. And I'm going to now go ahead to draw a straight line at that point. After this, I'm going to mark half inch on both sides, and after marking that, I'll be extending this up, and while extending it, I'll make sure I don't get exactly to the bust point. I'm going to also extend this all the way to the lower part of my pattern, and after this you'll be marking the same dart at the other side. So I'm just going to place my pattern paper as if I'm making this dress. Let's say you're done turning it with your lining and you want to go ahead to like add the pleated area. So you know how we got the length of the pleated area from the longest part of your pattern. That is, if you get the full length of your dress and when you draw out the asymmetric hemline, right? So from your shoulder to that longest part, minus it from the full length of your dress. For the remaining part you have, you'll be using it to cut out the pleat. Now for this pleat, you need a fabric that is at least long, something about 3 yards or 2.5 yards, depending on how deep you want your pleat to be. Now you're going to be pleating it at the lower side, but first I'll use my tape to hold this down before we go ahead to illustrate that part of the dress. Now, while attaching your pleat, you're going to start all the way from the back pattern of this dress. First, you're going to join the sides of your dress, leaving the zipper area this way. Now, you can now go ahead to create the kissing pleats that you have on this dress. So, if you don't know how to make a kissing pleat, there are other tutorials on YouTube where you can actually learn how to make a kissing pleat. So now all you have to do is just go ahead to create like that kissing pleats round your pattern. So you're making this kissing pleats round your dress and you're using it to replace the remaining parts of your dress. So see you in our next video. And if you haven't yet subscribed, kindly hit on the subscribe button and also give this video a thumbs up. Thanks.